Listen very carefully and follow my instructions. Prepare your brain for the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast.
I gotta tell you, being an entrepreneur, I will not go through the rest of my career without taking nootropics. Aniracetam, paracetam, modafinil, Nupep, uridine monophosphate. I mean, phenylparacetam, forget it. You can always have a better brain.
The Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast is about to begin.
For the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast, I am your host, Brian Michael Bell. Thanks so much for being with me. Thanks so much for listening. If you are new to this podcast, check us out on the web at livecortex.com. Check us out on YouTube at the Cortex Labs Nootropics channel on YouTube, livecortex.com/blog, giant blog for nootropics information. And we've got 6 powerful products that promote this broadcast, that basically support this broadcast. Without them, we would not exist and not be able to give you the hours of free information we put out. Here they are, powerful nootropic products. Number 1, the Cortex Stack, powerful cremate stack. I mean, this is a stack that if you really want to turn the cognitive lights on, you take this stack. It is a combination of some of the most powerful nootropic ingredients on the planet, to include uridine monophosphate, which is a well-rounded super nootropic. I mean, it is not subtle at all. And cytidine 5-diphosphylcholine, which is a very particular source of choline that optimizes dopamine receptors, does a bunch of other cool stuff. Essentially, a total neural activator, and some artichoke extract and a bit of Bacopa monnieri, which is an ages-old powerful herb. Increases neurite outgrowth, increases memory over time. Very powerful combination. But the Cortex Stack, our nootropic stack, right now $27, guys. So that special ends February 1st. If you're listening to this before February 1st, you can still get it for $27. After February 1st, that stack is going to go back to $34.99. Okay, get that at livecortex.com. All of our digital guides are also on sale right now. They teach you how to use nootropics. The one that really teaches you, if you're new to nootropics, how to use nootropics surgically is a digital guide called Smarter, Better, Faster. Download it at livecortex.com. That's also 20% off right now. The rest of our digital guides, like the Nootropic Stack for the Business Professional, the Nupep Pro Stack List, the Beginner's Guide to Aniracetam, the Racetam God Guide, these have powerful nootropic stacks in them. I mean, hundreds of stacks in those guides that give you some of the most top-notch, elite level, well put together, down to the last milligram nootropic stacks that you can take to turn on brain function. Get all the stuff at livecortex.com. Right now, everything is 20% off. That ends February 1st, okay, guys? We've also got 2 consulting programs. One is a nootropics consulting program, 40-minute call with me, 15 additional email correspondences. The other is a chronic fatigue syndrome consulting service. Get that stuff at livecortex.com. Okay, so thanks so much for sticking with me through the product pro. Quickly, I wanted to announce, we just let folks know via the YouTube channel, but we are launching another nootropic stack soon. The production for that stack starts in 3 weeks. So I'll keep you guys posted on it. It is going to be an exceptionally strong, get you into gear nootropic stack. It's like you're sitting there, your brain's not working right. You need to get into gear. Boom, you take the stack, lights turn on. More to come on that. Let's get into the podcast. Okay, so I often get the question via email and just from people generally about nootropics. What is the most sustainable nootropic compound there is? And there's a lot of them. I think if you're looking at racetams, it seems to me that paracetam is one of the most sustainable nootropics to take. And by sustainable, I mean you probably take it for 4 or 5 months and be just fine. I think you should still cycle off of it, but that's one of the most sustainable racetams that isn't going to particularly modulate receptor sites so significantly in the brain that, you'll start to get side effects or start to get massive tolerance after a while. You could take it for a pretty long time. We consult some folks from universities, a lot of folks from universities, frankly. And, in those cases, we suggest paracetam. If they want a stack to take pretty consistently, over the course of the next long time, 4 or 5 months, they're like studying in school, and they need consistent brain performance, and we'll suggest paracetam, and it ends up working out great for people. And look, there's others. Alpha lipoic acid is another one that I think you can take pretty consistently. I take ALA every day because of its effect on oxidative stress. Also, its effect on increasing glutathione, crosses over the blood-brain barrier, scavenges for free radicals. Very powerful compound. I take L-tyrosine with phenylalanine every day of my life, in combination with a bunch of other amino acids. I take the B vitamins every day. I mean, these are super sustainable nootropic compounds that one can take. I mean, just like, in my opinion, that last bit every day. But the when it comes to certain racetams, when it comes to modafinil, when it comes to adrafinil, when it comes to PRL 853, when it comes to Cmax, when it comes to some of these other research chemicals, though they're good for acute use, like most of them are basically in the category of awesome for acute use. I don't believe you should take them consistently without break. You got to cycle. Cycling is something we cover so heavily and so strongly in Smarter, Better, Faster, our digital nootropics guide, that it is, it's super informative for folks, and it's necessary to understand how to truly cycle nootropics to get sustainability and to get the right results and to prevent side effects, right? So again, modafinil and all that stuff, I think it really, those things should be cycled. The racetams, they should be cycled. Cycling strategies differ for different people. It all really depends, right? But the thing that I found the most is that binaural beats, binaural beats, brainwave, brain entrainment. There's a bunch of different names for it. ISO tones, isochronic tones. These are the best super sustainable nootropic-esque things that one can do, right? And like even more so than something like transcranial direct current stimulation, which sends milliamps of electricity through the brain. I think that's good and sustainable, but I think it really has to that has to be cycled too and approached with caution to some degree. Maybe that's a whole other episode. We'll talk about transcranial direct current stimulation. Very cool stuff, but certainly something that needs to be cycled. Isochronic tones or binaural beats, there's a bunch of different names from. They sort of do different things, but generally here's the gist. The gist is you send in a particular frequency measured in hertz, two different sound waves, I guess you could call it, and maybe my terminology is a little off, but I think you get it, to each ear. You wear headphones and you listen to binaural beats, right? Or isochronic tones or brain entrainment. And what happens is you've got headphones on, right? And the beats, these sounds, they're like normally sounds. They're designed so that a particular frequency of hertz is delivered to one ear, and a particular frequency of hertz is delivered to another ear. So you've got two different frequencies of hertz delivered to each ear. And what your brain does in response to that is your brain makes an entirely different frequency measured in hertz, which makes the difference of the two frequency measurements coming in each ear. Okay, so if you've got 40 hertz coming in on your left ear, and you've got 45 hertz, coming in your your right ear, then basically what happens is your brain tries to operate on a frequency of 5 hertz, which is the difference between 40 and 45, right? It tries to operate within that frequency. And the interesting thing about it, so that's essentially the scientific, granular, part about it. Now we're going to get into my own anecdotal experience, stuff that, might be hard to quantify and go research and whatever. But I think the experience counts. What's interesting about that is that the ensuing state that the brain can get in, so long as you're listening to those beats and you're not trying to think, because I think listening to binaural beats, you have to not think. You have to just let them do their thing, and you kind of have to go with, there's a mode the brain sort of wants to get into listening to those beats. You have to go into that mode and allow yourself to go into that mode. But once you get there, it is like some of the most powerful meditation sessions compounded. Okay, it's like meditation compounded. It is substantially strong. For me, the effects of this kind of, neurological modulation is that, I do it every day too, is that I synthesize, it's almost like my brain gets integrated, right? There's a term called full brain or all brain synchrony, which describes essentially a brain state in which probably the hemispheres are able to communicate with each other a lot better through the what splits the hemispheres up and allows communication to travel between the hemispheres, called the corpus callosum. It's this sort of thread in the middle, goes down right in the middle of your brain. And what is postulated to happen, and what I think happens, and based on how I feel, right? If there was a feeling or a state that you ended up in where the hemispheres could massively communicate with each other, and that the whole brain was just up and alive, rather than you being like half stressed out and half thinking about 100 things that are worrying you and making you mad or whatever, then that would be That's kind of a rough like anecdotal, explanation of whole brain synchrony or full brain synchrony. That state for me, I end up, out of listening to binaural beats, a lot more balanced. I'm a lot more emotionally under control. I respond to stress better. I respond to stress differently. You know what I mean? I'm focused on my priorities more. The most significant part of it is that I'm way excited about things. You know how people say stop and smell the roses? Well, and how sometimes if you're you got a busy life, things are going on, it's difficult to stop and smell the roses. Well, in that state that I end up in from listening to binaural beats, when I feel like my brain is totally integrated, I can actually stop and smell the roses, right? People go, oh, stop and smell the roses. It's not that easy sometimes. It really isn't, because you're really trying to change your state neurologically. And if you're getting overrun by anxiety, you've got the amygdala firing off, you've got other things firing off in your brain, thoughts that are uncontrollable, too much epinephrine, too much dopamine, too much whatever, in particular cases, it's difficult to stop and smell the roses. But in this state, you've essentially integrated everything. You sort of integrated your brain, all your thoughts, you stop all the crazy stuff going on, it's kind of like a reset. It's this massive crazy mode the brain gets in, almost comparable to like sleep. When you sleep, your brain does all this restoration. When you meditate, your brain does all this restoration. Now we know, looking at functional MRI studies, that there's increased gray matter and different frequencies of electrical activity in meditators, especially long-term meditators, Tibetan monks, etc. They're able to get into this crazy state called the gamma state, GAMMA state, which is measured by hertz probably, and certainly electrical activity. And that's the state where they have massive compassion and their brains are totally integrated. And, they have this, under the functional MRIs, they have areas of the brain that are lit up. Their entire brains are lit up. This is a crazy state to be in. And so, after that state, being in that state, like in my office, I have portraits on the wall of woods. Like I got a walkway, a nice little woodsy walkway. The other one I have is like a beach. It's like a beach and the water's coming up on the beach and there's a mountain on the other side. The other one is just like a sort of like a lake, a giant lake with the sunset on the other side and a nice wooden dock there. I actually look at those things and appreciate them, and I'm happy about it, and my brain knows to appreciate them. My brain can look at them and actually go, oh man, that's beautiful and that's cool. And then I can feel the ensuing good vibes and good feelings from looking at it. To the quantifiable productivity stuff, I find it easier to stick to my to-do list. I find that I take less breaks in between work, where I sit there and I'm like restless and I can't function, and I'm like, I don't want to work right now. I kind of want to just ride my bike or do something, go to the gym. I find it a lot easier to stay on point, on task. I find it so much easier to communicate with folks. I just feel like myself, there's no impediments. And there's nothing going on that's blocking my capacity to function the way that I need to function. It's really, really something astonishingly awesome. And so this kind of stuff, binaural beats, isochronic tones, brain entrainment, this really is the most sustainable nootropic-esque thing that I think you can do. I've been doing it for many years. I've gotten absolutely, so here's the differentiation between this and nootropic compounds. I've gotten absolutely no negative side effects. I can do it whenever I want. I can do it at nighttime, and it always works predictably well. That's how it's different from nootropic compounds. You can take modafinil at 9 p.m., but you're not going to sleep. You're not going to sleep. If you got some stuff to do all night, fine, great, go for it. Happy hunting. But with isochronic tones and binaural beats, you don't have that problem. Okay, so, we get the question often enough, what's the most sustainable nootropic I can take? And again, piracetam, ALA, tyrosine, phenylalanine, Alcar. Those are the ones that really stick with me. I think people are different too. Some folks' brains are going to require certain cholinergic inputs, certain dopaminergic nootropics. They can take them sustainably for quite some time. And then other people's brains are different. They're gonna require taking, other kind of compounds. They can take, Nupep for 4 years and basically have a little bit of cycling in between and be totally fine. But truly the most sustainable nootropic-esque thing you can do is, binaural beats. These kind of beats where you send different frequencies in each ear and then your brain makes a frequency from the difference. So, I mean, if you're one of those people that's like thinks that there's nothing to binaural beats, you got to try it. And when you're listening to them, you got to give it some time, 10, 15, 20 minutes. You kind of have to like know how to turn your thoughts off and let the brain do what the brain is going to do in response to those beats, in response to all those sounds coming in. That's what you need to figure out how to do. And if you can do that, you'll surely be able to enter a pretty significantly powerful, fully integrated brain state that is unlike any other nootropic compound there is. I mean, if there's a nootropic stack that would do something like that, having a totally fully integrated brain, everything just like really working on point. I mean, it'd be either the Cortex stack, our stack, because we made it for that. Uridine is upregulated, if that's a word, of neurogenesis and a bunch of other great things that are involved in the brain repairing and growing itself. They put it in mother's breast milk. They put uridine. Uridine is in mother's breast milk, but they put it in baby's formula. It's strong. It's a very powerful compound. But then, I mean, look, there's other stacks. The TAU Limitless stack. The TAU Limitless stack has triacetyluridine, which is a nootropic compound as its base, and a bunch of other compounds in it. Additionally, that you can find in the Smarter, Better, Faster digital downloadable nootropics guide. That stack is like this, and there are some other, I don't want to be hypey, but like NZT-esque like stacks that involve different racetams, modafinil, and a bunch of other things combined. That you can find in the Racetam God Guide, digital downloadable guide that allow you to get to this state. But frankly, the best, most sustainable one is these kind of beats. And if you can sit there long enough, 30 minutes, sometimes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and let your brain respond to the frequencies of these tones, you can really get in a substantially awesome state. I mean, it's really, really something else. Okay, so that's my take on it. That's like the most sustainable brain performance modulating thing in my view at this point. So I hope that's been helpful. The one of the best ones to do that I do every day. Let's see if I can actually find it while I'm doing this podcast. It's on YouTube. I think you can just YouTube search 40HZ tones. Let's see if that'll bring it up. 40 HC tones, and it's the third one. It's called isochronic, and then it has a colon, and then it says 40 HZ for hertz, gamma, GAMMA, at 300 HZ, and then it says dash focus, comma consciousness, comma learning, comma bliss, comma compassion. That is a brainwave. It's like a brainwave YouTube video that I listen to on headphones every day that completely changes my brain. All right. I mean, this is pretty clear. You're sending in, particular audio tones with waves your brain is making, a particular frequency based on the difference of those waves. And as a result, you end up in a different state neurologically. Very, very powerful stuff. I hope this has been helpful. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. I am your host, Ryan Michael Balla. Check us out on the web at livecortex.com, livecortex.com/blog, giant blog for nootropics information. All of our podcasts right there. On YouTube, at the Cortex Labs Nootropics channel on YouTube, all of our powerful products right now, all of our nootropic products are 20% off until February 1st. You got to get it. This is the tail end of this deal. This is it. Everything goes back to normal price on February 1st. Okay, so that's the Cortex stack, our powerful pre-made nootropic stack. Thing is exceptionally strong. Get it right now while you can for $27 at livecortex.com. All of our digital nootropic guides, they are also 20% off. Get them right now while you can at livecortex.com. And then the Nootropic Starter Pack, probably our most popular product. That's a bottle of Cortex and Smarter, Better, Faster, which is the tell-all digital nootropics guide that teaches you everything you need to know when you're new on how to start with nootropics. Get all the stuff at livecortex.com. Thanks so much for listening. Rock on, everybody. Talk to you next time.